But you look at Patrick Mahomes, played a lot of football at Texas Tech, didn't have to play right away. All of a sudden, he's older, gets his opportunity. So there's some correlation there that's very, very real.
What's funny amongst the NFL people when I talk to them about this, and I look them in the straight face, I said, I'm not surprised about Brock Purdy. And they look at me, they go, I'm like, do you know how much football that guy's played?
Yep.
He's played a ton of football. Now, I don't think anyone saw Mr. Irrelevant becoming an MVP candidate like this, but in terms of football acumen, dude played a lot of football. And I think that's what we're getting away from. So as we count down now to the early signing period, give me what's out there in the next 5 or 6 days that could rock the recruiting classes. I know one of them's Dylan Raiola. Update on him, but what's out there?
That's really the only big what-if storyline right now that's surrounding a guy that's committed and that's high profile. For the most part, it's been pretty quiet in terms of, could so-and-so be thinking about flipping type of talk. We haven't seen anywhere near as much of that. And again, I think that's a bit of a reflection of the fact that these guys know, hey, this is where I'm going. I've been committed for a long time. I just need the 20th to get here so I can sign on the dotted line and go away. I think the one thing that I always look forward to that I'm curious about is how many scholarships get withheld by schools for the transfer portal in the spring, meaning that, so let's just say they've got the opportunity to bring 26 in, but they only signed 16 or they only signed 17. So when you start to see the numbers for each team that will come out of next week, those numbers might be a little bit low. And it's not because the team didn't do a good job. It's not because they didn't meet their needs. It's because they're withholding their full slot of scholarships, and they're going to try to look to improve if they can somewhere in the next calendar year. I think that as far as the class is concerned, it's a really, really good wide receiver class. We just had a reclassification in Ryan Williams from the 2025 class to the 2024 class. Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader, Cameron Coleman, all top 10 guys overall, which is usually rare for us because receivers are, they're growing on trees. They're everywhere. But I think that's a strong group. I think the defensive line is a really strong group. 4 or 5 guys. David Stone, the Oklahoma commit. Williams, Winery, who's committed to Missouri. Missouri, by the way, and if you're going to look for maybe a story and why Missouri's gotten to this point, from the 2022, 2023, and 2024 class, for whatever reason, the state of Missouri's had the strongest group of high-level players it's had over the last 20 years.
Really?
And yes, if for whatever reason, like the Luther Burdens of the world and Williams, Winery, the defensive end, like you don't generally see that out of the state of Missouri. And Missouri's done a really good job of keeping those kids at home, which has completely bolstered their roster pretty significantly. So I think that's an area that's kind of been interesting when we look at pockets of talent pools and things of that nature, but kind of quiet on the front, man. And it's, and you remember this, Matt, we used to have the 10, 11, 12-hour signing day show, and then we go to 2 signing periods, and it becomes much more minimized. But we would still always have like probably 8 to 10, sometimes 12 guys come on our air and make their announcement. We might have 4 or 5 this year. There's nobody left.
Yeah, and look, we could sit here for an hour and discuss college football and some of the issues that we have to face right now and kind of moving it forward. I think near the top of that list is the changing calendar. I think this calendar is awful because I'm dealing with coaches now. You're dealing with coaches now.
Sure.
We're trying to prep for bowl games, but they're like, man, I got signing day. I got to go recruit. So now you've got to go recruit, signing day, portal, prep for a bowl game. And then you have to have kids make decisions that they might not be ready to make on December 20th, because like you said, if you mess around, your golly's gone. It's,
you're 100% correct. I've got a bowl game, Matt. Multiple. I got one, after Christmas and around New Year's, but I've got the famous Toastery Bowl on Monday. Signing day is Wednesday. All right. I was having this conversation with Tyson Helton and Ricky Ronnie yesterday on our coaches calls at ODU right now, Old Dominion. They have coaches staying behind because they're having an official visit this weekend.
Yeah,
and the other half of the coaching staff come to Charlotte, and then the rest of those coaches will come to Charlotte too. Western Kentucky's doing the same thing. Western Kentucky made a decision where now, because if you jump in the portal, you're allowed to still play in the bowl game if your coach will let you. And Western Kentucky's doing that. And they're going to have a bunch of guys that are in the portal and playing in the game on Monday afternoon. I mean, that's unfathomable to me. Like I scratch my head at that. I'm like, holy smokes, you got to be kidding me. But you're right. The calendar. Here's my thing on the early transfer portal period. Nobody wants to say this, but this is reality. Unless if you've been tampered with, which the good ones have all been tampered with, you know where you're going and you have a spot to go. If you haven't been tampered with and you jump into the transfer portal, you don't need 30 freaking days, man. You're going to know what your market value is almost immediately because your phone's either going to ring or it's not.
Right.
So let's clean that thing up and shorten that thing up and get it done before we ever embark on this first signing period so the coaches can at least know who's on their roster and who's not.
Yeah.
You're either in or you're out, right? But we're giving it was 45 days. They reduced it to 30, but I think they could reduce it to 2 weeks, 10 days. You're going to know. You're going to know. And so those coaches are every single day. And I'm doing the same thing in my office. Every single day we're looking, all right, who went into the portal? What's their value? What type of projection would we give them? But get that out of the way. And then the signing, I think personally, we could go back to one signing period or back the signing period up to late January and then like March 1st or something. And let the Bulls, let practice, let the transfer portal clean itself up and then focus on one thing at a time.
Because and here's the deal, and I love that idea especially with backing the signing day up, because the thing with the portal is you can back it up a little bit, but some of these guys that transfer have to get into the school for the start of the spring semester.
Mid-years.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So there's a window that they have to hit, but this shouldn't be it. I mean, you should be able to, because between the bowl game, I'm looking at rosters. I'm like, was this kid playing? Is that kid?
Exactly.
It's a mess. But there's
mess.
There's enough muscular brains in our sport to get this figured out. Hey man, this was great. I want to do this again, probably February or March, because I want to recap everything that happened, because then we should see some of the dust settle.
You bet, man. Love to do it, man. Thanks for having me, Matt.
The great Tom Luginbill here on the Matt Barrie Show, ESPN College Football YouTube channel.
Give me something I can feel. Light a cigarette just so I can breathe.